Listen, I don't care what y'all say, but Bigfoot is real. Now, it's been a while since I've done a Bigfoot video, but there has been so much new evidence since then, so let's take a look at it. To start off, we have the Colorado sighting. In October 2023, a Bigfoot video filmed in Colorado went viral online. Sensen Parker and his wife Shannon recently took a trip through Colorado to celebrate their 10th anniversary. They boarded the Durango and Silverton narrow gauge railroad and saw something unexpected. Bigfoot. Now, the video, which was taken by a fellow passenger and posted online by Sensen, shows a tall, brownish creature walking and squatting before it blends into its surroundings. Now, the footage is zoomed in, making for a grainy video. Now, to him, Sensen said, the creature didn't look like a human, it didn't move like a person, he said. It looked more like an ape, but it didn't walk like an ape so much. He added that the creature's arms seemed too long to be human, with hands reaching down to its knees. It didn't look like anything I've ever seen before, he said. I don't think it was a hoax, and if it was a really good one. Up next, we have the Mississippi Woods sighting. A video that has resurfaced and gone viral seemingly shows a Sasquatch moving through the Mississippi woods. It was recorded and posted on YouTube back in 2015 by Josh Highcliffe. In the caption, Josh wrote, "I was out hunting hogs and wearing hunting camo and just sitting dead still waiting for it to get dark, and I hear a noise behind the tree I was sitting on. I thought it was the hogs, and when I got around, I could not believe my own eyes." He added there was this huge black thing crouched by a dead cypress about 50 yards away. I saw these shoulders and a head upright with hands. It looked like it was digging out a sump. My first instinct was to run. I did not even think of shooting. Then I know no one will believe me, but it was like everything slowed down. I was scared. I took my iPhone and started videotaping it. I heard a truck driving down the road and the thing stood up. I was trying to be dead quiet, and when it stood up, I could not control myself and ran. The stump was huge, and I guess the sucker was 7 feet tall. I am a hunter, and I'm pretty darn good at guessing size. Wow, that is crazy. Now let's discuss the Owen Sound sighting. Ryan Willis and Joel Porter co-host a TV show called Sasquatch University, where they've gotten credible sightings in Owen Sound. They started the Trent University Sasquatch Society, which zooms in scientists and others to talk to the Peterborough Club, hearing from all the top researchers in the Bigfoot community, said Willis, who is president. They've received reports, and quite credible ones too, which they thought would make a good episode for the show, he said. Now, their hunt was to be conducted just 4 minutes west of Owen Sound, where the encounter happened, Willis said. One had a road crossing sighting, and it was like behind a sign at the other side of the road. It didn't actually cross the road, clarified Porter. Now, the beast must have been 11 feet tall, given it was reported peeking over a 9 or 10 foot sign. Now, a separate local sighting came from someone who viewed the big fellow through a window, Porter added. Now, they weren't able to capture it on video, but they said they are determined to capture the proof. Moving on to the Provo Canyon sighting. There are many Bigfoot videos on YouTube, but one particular clip is from Provo Canyon, Utah. The video appears to show a large black animal hunched over in the trees, possibly feeding or foraging. Now, the camera zooms in to try to get a closer look, and a few seconds later, the great creature stands up on its 2 legs as if it's bipedal. Now, the video was posted on October 30th, 2012, and has amassed more than 7.6 million views on YouTube. Now, according to the account uploader, the pair were on a camping trip hoping to get a closer look at a deer on a hill. On our way up, we thought we saw a bear, until the monster stood up and looked right at us. We ran straight to the car after that, leaving our tent and everything behind. It's probably all still up there. Now we have the Minnesota Bigfoot. In October of 2023, there was a Bigfoot sighting in Minnesota. The people who saw it said this: "While my mother and I were grouse hunting up by Benna on 6 Mile Lake Road in the Mud Goose Management area, we both witnessed a Bigfoot. We were traveling and my mom said, 'Whoa, back up.' Down trail 2266 near the bend, we see a Bigfoot off the trail in the grassy ditch, and it slowly moved off the trail west to east. My mom asked me if it felt like it moved in super slow motion. I concurred. The ditch at the site was 3 feet down, and the grass at the side of the trail was 3 feet tall, and the upper torso was 3 to 4 feet showing above the grass, leading the Bigfoot to be approximately 8 to 10 feet tall. We drove to the spot and both noticed a strong sulfur or rotting vegetation. When I got out of the car, I immediately felt all the hair stand up on my body. I checked for any sign of footprints on the road, and I cannot see any due to the gravel being very packed down. There was a small bit of gravel disturbed in one spot near the west side of the road shoulder. We later got stopped by the conservation officer, and when we mentioned what we had seen and where it was, he remarked that's where people have reported seeing a Bigfoot. My mother and I have no doubt that we saw one. Now let's talk about the Tennessee Bigfoot. In 2022, a man filmed what is believed to be Bigfoot in Tennessee. Footage shows a huge black creature with super long arms moving about in a wooded area. Now, as ever with these things, the footage isn't exactly the clearest, but there's definitely some weird creature hanging around there. According to Bigfoot Input, the man said he first thought it was a friend playing a prank, but once he saw the length of its arms and how it moved from tree to tree, he quickly grabbed his daughter and ran back inside. He said he got out one of his weapons and a dog and went back outside, but the creature had gone. Now, the video has been shared on social media where it's gotten people baffled and questioning what it could be. One person said, "What gets me is how it grabs one tree and then stretches the other arm to grab the other. I've heard of that before. Long arms, and I noticed the broad shoulders that you'll see a Bigfoot having that a hunter in a suit does not have." Now, everyone was convinced it was Bigfoot, and I say, I have to agree. To start off, Florida Bigfoot is our next sighting. To start off the new year in 2017, a man claimed to have spotted Bigfoot. A fisherman claimed to have seen and photographed Bigfoot while it allegedly sat in a feet of the murky, swampy Hillsborough River outside of Tampa, Florida. Then, on January 25th, Matthew McCamey and his friend claimed to have seen Bigfoot while canoeing in a swamp that day in Lettuce Lake Park near Tampa, Florida. Now, perhaps they saw the same Bigfoot who was just roaming the area. Now, the two men took a canoe into one of the many swampy inlets of Lettuce Lake Park, and around 1 p.m. they heard a noise accompanied by tree movement. Matthew grabbed his phone and started videotaping. Initially, it was exciting, and it was like, "Oh, is that a bear? That's pretty cool," he said. When we moved up closer, it started to look less and less like a bear. You could tell he was slapping the water, and it looked like maybe he was grabbing something. At the time, I was just thinking, holy sh, what the hell is this? He said that his friend was so shaken by the experience that he still won't talk about it. Now, at one point in the video, the friend moved one of the canoe paddles, making a noise, which seemed to catch the attention of the hairy individual in the swamp. Matthew added, "Where the video cut off is basically where I stopped taping. We wanted to leave, and I couldn't do both video and row." Moving on to the California Bigfoot. In 2001, a youth group was camping in the Marble Mountain Wilderness, California, when their leader, Jim Mills, noticed a strange-looking creature sulking along a ridge nearby. He believed it was Bigfoot and filmed it for nearly 7 minutes, making the somewhat grainy footage the longest footage of an alleged Bigfoot sighting. The video shows Bigfoot walking down a hill, and some think this video is legit and is one of the longest known Bigfoot videos ever captured before. The video has been considered legitimate and has not been tampered with. What makes this video interesting is there were multiple witnesses, but everyone in the video is shockingly calm though, which is just like crazy to me. Now, it's unknown if this youth group returned back to this location or if anyone else was brought in to investigate there, and officially, if evidence was documented, it might have been quietly swept under the rug. Next up, we have the Canada sighting. In 2022, a video shared on the YouTube channel of the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization, RSMO, shows what they claim is yet another in a long line of Bigfoot sightings. This particular footage, taken by boaters in northern Ontario, Canada, doesn't come with a lot of details. There's been a lot of Bigfoot activity in Ontario, Canada recently, and there's also a long history of Bigfoot sightings in this wild remote area recently, the person from RMSO says in the video. We have seen a lot of photos and videos of Bigfoot in the area, and here is one of the latest Bigfoot sightings captured by some boaters. Now, the commenters truly believe that the evidence is real. The ease of walking up the rocky pile and subsequent gait afterwards is not how a human walks. Very compelling, one viewer wrote. "Wow, he is huge, looks to be 8 or 10 feet tall. Scary just watching this," commented another. And last on our list, we have the traffic cam Bigfoot. Bigfoot. A Washington Department of Transportation traffic camera near Sherman Pass captured Bigfoot standing in the snow in January 2020. Sasquatch spotted, the WSDOT Twitter account tweeted, along with 3 circled and zoomed in photos. I'm not superstitious, just a little stitious. The WSDOT employee points out that there appears to be something in the bottom left part of the frame. It looks like a person-shaped figure silhouetted against an evergreen tree. Might be Sasquatch, the tweet says. We will leave that up to you. Now, one image shows the figure circled in red, and the tweet also says that the photos were captured on State Road 20 Sherman Pass, a route that winds its way through the forested Cascade Mountains in the northeastern part of the state. The spot is about 70 kilometers south of the Canada-US border in Grand Forks, BC. Now, I'm sure Bigfoot didn't realize that there was a traffic cam there, and hopefully he's more careful.
The Titanoboa lived around 60 million years ago and weighed in at about 2,500 pounds, reaching lengths of about 50 feet. Absolute monsters. This was the kind of snake you'd see Conan battling in Frank Frazetta paintings. The way these things would have taken out their prey is similar to how modern boa constrictors do, constricting and choking their enemies to death. These things were so big and bad, they were able to consume massive-sized crocodiles whole. These massive-sized snakes have been long extinct, but that doesn't mean we don't have boas slithering around that tip the scales and come pretty close to being prehistoric in size. No, that's not an animatronic. No, you are not looking at a scene from a new Jurassic Park movie. That's an actual boa that exists in real life. What you're looking at is a 34-foot long, 990-pound anaconda that was discovered at a construction site in Brazil. I think the word discovered is a bit out of place here. Encountered, that's more accurate. That thing would have been impossible to miss. The workers had been carrying out a controlled explosion in the Belo Monte Dam in the northern state of Para when they saw this beast. They ended up having to lift it out of there with construction equipment so they could get back to work. Now, hopefully they didn't kill it. This clip here shows a pan of the boa's gigantic body though. Just unreal. I thought Titanoboas were extinct. There was some pretty exciting news in the world of serpents about 6 months back with the discovery of the northern green anaconda in northern and South America. Not only is this a newly discovered snake species, but it may also be one of the largest in the world. If the name sounds familiar to you, then you may be thinking of the southern green anaconda. In 2024, these ones were found to be genetically distinct though. Now, these boas were always known to the local Kalina people, which they called Akayima, but the species had never been documented in the scientific world. That was until 2024, when a group from the University of Queensland set out to search for them. They joined members of the Warani tribe on a 10-day expedition to find the snakes, and what they saw blew the researchers away. Just take a look at this. That is absolutely amazing. I'm very confused as to why the diver is swimming with what looks to be a private school uniform, but I digress. Anyway, biologist Brian Fry, who led the team, was interviewed about the experience, saying one female anaconda they came across was just over 20 feet long, and they were told they can get even bigger, closer to 24 feet. Ever seen that show River Monsters? I feel like this thing deserves an episode all to itself. Here we have footage of a massive-sized anaconda taken in the Santa Maria River in Brazil. Now, for some reason, the dudes in the video actually tried to grab this thing with their bare hands. First of all, that's just not cool. You shouldn't be doing that with any wild animal. Just leave the things alone. But second of all, just what in the hell were they thinking, taking their chances messing with something like this? I mean, look at that. It's so gigantic, it doesn't even look like it belongs in this time period. It's prehistorically huge. If I was floating down a river and saw that thing slithering around the water, I wouldn't even think it was a snake. My first thought would be that Loch Ness just showed up. I'd immediately think that monsters are real, my entire worldview would flip on its head, and I'd be tearing out of there long before the thought of touching it with a 20-foot pole, let alone my bare hands, ever entered into my mind. Anyway, Each one of these guys rightfully ended up getting a fine for pestering the animal. How would you like to come across any boa constrictor, let alone one the size of this, slithering around right in your backyard? Well, that's exactly what happened to someone in South Florida. Toby's Troop is a YouTube channel ran by two wildlife experts named Taylor and Rhett, who specialize in rescuing rare or fully invasive species in South Florida. They also do house calls, removing venomous snakes from people's backyards. So when they received a call about a big python in someone's yard, it seemed like it was going to be another typical day for them. What they weren't expecting to find, though, was a huge boa instead. They described it as the biggest boa constrictor either of them had ever seen. It was strange because boas aren't an established invasive species in South Florida. How it got there was, and still is, a total mystery. What you're looking at here is the largest living snake in captivity today, Medusa, a reticulated python measuring 25 feet and 2 inches long, weighing in at 350 pounds. Yes, it's not a boa. I threw on a couple big snakes that aren't boas. If that's something that's gonna ruin your whole day, then I'm sorry. Medusa is owned by Full Moon Productions in Kansas City, not to be confused with the straight-to-video horror movie production company Full Moon Features. This is Full Moon Productions. They run haunted houses. I don't think that was information any of you were asking for and probably didn't need clarifying, but here we are. Anyway, big snake, reticulated pythons are native to Southeast Asia, and they're some of the longest snakes in the entire world. Medusa gets fed a healthy diet of rabbits, hogs, and deer on a bi-weekly basis. Staff at the Edge of Hell haunted house where she's currently housed say that she purrs like a cat when she's happy and hisses when she's angry. Ever seen a video that just makes your whole body involuntarily shudder? Just like, this is one of those videos. This is horrific. Check it out. This video was taken in India on a farmer's property. The dude came across this gargantuan monster eating one of his cows whole. Yeah, that bulge in the middle of the snake, that is an entire cow. Anyway, the farmer ended up lassoing the snake to get it off his property. I'm kind of mad I had to do this video today because I know I'm just gonna wake up at 3 a.m. with one of those gross snake nightmares, and then I'm gonna feel like there's one crawling around in my bed, and I'm gonna be all icked out for the rest of the night, and then I'll be a zombie all of tomorrow. Anyway, I'm just glad I could pass that gift on to all of you. I hope you're all glad that you clicked today. And now we truck over to Indonesia to watch a terrifying encounter with a gigantic python captured on camera. This happened on November 22nd of 2018. Now, if you're wondering why these dudes are wrestling with the serpents, they're not doing it to show how macho they are. They're not doing it for internet clout. This snake had wrapped itself around an innocent villager and they were trying to wrestle the beast off of them. Fortunately, in the end, they were able to, but not without a serious fight. So they'd been walking by and spotted what they thought was just a log until it started moving. The snake got defensive, leading to an altercation. One guy ended up getting caught in the python's death grip, but with the help of 5 other dudes, they were able to get him free. The Cuban boa. This snake is a real giant and one of the most impressive snakes you'll find in the Caribbean. It's native to Cuba, hence the name, and it's not just big, it's also very intimidating. These things can climb. They're semi-arboreal. Imagine that thing grabbing you from up in a tree. The Cuban boa can grow up to 13 feet long on average, but they've been known to reach up to 18 feet as well. Like all boas, they're non-venomous and instead have a thick, muscular body that helps them constrict their prey. These boas are mostly found in Cuba's forests and swamps, and they're pretty good at blending into their surroundings. Their coloration can vary from dark brown to olive green, which helps them camouflage in the leaves and branches. This makes them very effective hunters. They usually prey on birds, small mammals, and other animals that they can overpower with their constriction. Luckily, though, they generally avoid humans and would rather hide from us than confront us. But if you're exploring the Cuban wilderness, good idea to be aware these guys are around and just give them plenty of space. They're gonna need it. Finally, though, we have the king cobra. You want scary snakes? This is a scary snake. Not only are king cobras incredibly venomous, but they can get massive too. These are the longest venomous snakes in the entire world, with the largest ones reaching lengths of up to 18.5 feet. The biggest king cobra on record though, 19.2 feet. So you're getting the best of both worlds here, or is it the worst? You take your pick. You get the size of a boa mixed with a deadly venomous bite. So that's just great. What's even crazier about these guys is they don't even go after the type of prey you typically imagine with other snakes, rodents. No, these things will often prey on other snakes, including members of their own species. That's about as cold-blooded as it gets. Animals that eat each other, just always disturbing. I don't know why nature spawns animals like this, but they do.
Up first is the Provo Canyon encounter. This terrifying encounter begins with a couple hiking in the renowned Bigfoot hotspot of Provo Canyon. While they may not have been looking for a Sasquatch, they certainly find one. The couple spots the creature watching them from a concealed position before it then rises to its full height in what seems to be a threat. The hikers may not speak Sasquatch, but they do speak survival instinct, and they make a break for it the moment the creature begins to reach its full height. Since then, there have been several other sightings in Provo Canyon, including of a Sasquatch throwing rocks at another hiker. Next is Port Renfrew. Vancouver Island has many lush areas of wilderness, including around Port Renfrew, which seems to be one of the last locations of a Sasquatch population on the island. This hiker ended up coming across a very, very hairy situation, if you'll pardon my pun. There, just a dozen meters away, is a creature capable of tearing a tree apart with its bare hands. A creature that is known to hunger for meat. The Sasquatch doesn't seem to notice the hiker and instead is focused on harvesting something from a tree in front of it. Whether that's foliage or sap or grubs, we don't exactly know. Thankfully, this hiker was lucky enough to be able to retrace their steps and escape both without alerting the creature or being injured. Now, for a homesteading horror. Our homes are meant to be our safe spaces, but for homes out in the rural wilderness, there are dangers that can turn your entire homestead into a living horror. This family had been making strange sightings in the distance for some time, but it was after several weeks of unnerving sightings that they finally spotted the creature for sure. The large Sasquatch is seen watching from the edge of the clearing and is no doubt an intimidating sight. After the sighting, the family decided to take more proactive measures to protect themselves and began using fireworks and other loud bangs to ward off the creature, which has seemingly worked as they've made no sightings since. Now for the famed Clingman's Dome. The highest point in Tennessee is likely also one of the most southern points where Sasquatch can be seen. Sasquatch, being the North American species, tend to live in cool environments, their thick fur making life in warmer areas difficult except for set species. And so, in the southern reaches of their range, they often stay restricted to the mountains, where cold air and isolation gives them the best environment to live in. This footage was recorded by some hikers who stopped when they saw a whole crowd of people watching this tree line. The people had said they saw something like a bear walking on two legs, after which some of this stunning footage was captured. The eastern Sasquatch populations are considered to be under extreme threat as habitat loss and warming are putting a greater strain on these creatures to survive. Little else is known of the eastern population, as sightings of the western or midwest populations are simply far more common. Next up are forested remains. A group of hunters near the Banff National Park came across a horrifying encounter with a large Sasquatch nest adorned with the remains of unknown creatures, some of which could have been human. Instead of, I don't know, alerting the authorities, they decide to set up a trail cam watching over the nest, which does end up picking up some pretty incredible footage. We watch as the creature returns to its nest, and yet it can clearly sense something is wrong. It's likely Sasquatch do not have as good vision as us, but what they do have is a significantly better sense of smell. The Sasquatch ends up sniffing out the camera and rips it from the tree. However, the camera was recoverable the next day when the hunters returned for it. And finally, Marble Mountain. This footage was recorded by a leader of a youth group called Campus Life who made a yearly trip out to Marble Mountain. However, in 2001, something special would happen. First, the group would discover a strange shelter constructed in the forest, made of thick pine boughs and branches stacked to create a hovel large enough to fit two people or a single Sasquatch. But that wasn't the exciting part. Anyone could have made that shelter. The exciting part comes just a few minutes later when a student calls out that they see something up on the ridge. Way far off in the distance, walking along the ridge of Marble Mountain is some sort of giant bipedal creature. It's easily above the 8-foot mark, judging by the trees that it passes. However, unlike other sightings, this footage actually lasts for quite a long time. It watches the creature cross over the ridge and behind a rock outcropping. This has been considered by many to be among the most definitive pieces of proof available. Others, however, have claimed it's just someone wearing a big coat stumbling over a mountain ridge. What do you think? Up first, the spark to the flame. Sightings have been reported for centuries, but this was the first one to be caught on film and started all the Bigfoot hype way back in 1967. Recorded by filmmakers Rogers Patterson and Gimlin, they had been riding their horses down a Californian trail in the Buff Creek area searching for Bigfoot after reports of recent sightings when they had to dismount to cross over a fallen log. It was lucky that they had, because just as they were crossing, the very creature they were after began to cross in the far clearing. They did manage to set up the camera in time, and though it is initially shaky, they do capture several critical clear seconds. The footage even has a fairly decent resolution of the creature's head and fur, which seems very intriguing and possibly believable. Since then, many have tried to smear and discredit Patterson and Gimlin, but they continue to attest to the truth of the sighting. Next is the swamp monster. Josh Highcliffe was a hunter with a chunk of property 9 miles west of Tunica. On this fateful morning, however, Josh decided that he would be hunting hogs, and so got out into the swamp early that morning. Well before sunrise, he settled in and waited for the pigs to arrive, but it was a few hours later when he heard a shuffling sound and began to prepare to take a pig home. Instead, he would see a massive Sasquatch focused on an old dead cypress tree in the swamp. Immediately, Josh started recording and captured some of the most chilling footage I've ever seen. We truly get to see and hear the incredible strength of this creature as it appears to simply rip this tree trunk to shreds with its bare hands. Highcliffe ran the moment that he could and has allegedly not been back in the forest since. If it weren't for his posting on his own YouTube channel, which has no other videos, this footage likely would have never seen the light of day. Next is the Lettuce Lake legend. Matt initially thought this creature that he spotted while canoeing was a bear. However, after reviewing this footage with a park ranger, they determined that this couldn't be a bear. According to the park ranger, few bears, if any, ever went into the swamp. The creature was seen striding, swimming, and diving through the water, and did not seem to notice Matt at first. He has reason to believe that it also isn't a human, as what human would go diving in a fursuit in swamp water filled with 12-foot gators and water moccasins? Eventually, the creature does seem to notice Mark watching it and flees to deeper water before swimming away entirely. Could semi-aquatic swamp apes actually be real? No one expects to be watched by a Sasquatch while they work, but for this oil field worker, that's exactly what happened. He pulled up to a pipeline in the dead of winter to go through some simple diagnostic checks, and everything seems to be fine. He does his checks, gets back in his truck, and drives off. But that's when we see it. A massive 9-foot tall Sasquatch watching him from the trees. The creature has obviously been there for some time, as it's almost covered in fallen snow, and it's likely been keeping watch over a nearby family, protecting them from this oil worker. It's chilling to think that this worker could have been mere meters from a certain end, but thankfully he avoided a grisly fate. He has since apparently suffered harassment from an unknown figure who wants him to take down this footage. Next is the Nightwalker. This footage came from western Montana, released by a family that lives in a home on the edge of the woods. On this night, the family heard horrific screeches and screams coming from the forest, along with loud thumps, bangs, and so the father grabs a camera and, perhaps unwisely thinking he's the main character, goes out into the trees. He finds a shattered tree that seems to have been smashed to pieces with a rock. While continuing to move deeper into the woods, he then comes across it. Suddenly, and without warning, a massive Sasquatch appears briefly and peers out of the forest at the camera. This is paralyzing footage and is deeply unsettling. It's clear, given the distances involved, that this Sasquatch could easily charge across this short clearing and tear this man limb from limb, and yet it doesn't. It simply stares, grunts, blinks, and then vanishes back into the woods just as quickly as it appeared.
This big chonker was spotted in Brazil. Obviously, this is an anaconda, some of the largest snakes in the world. Not only are they long, but they're incredibly thick, very prehistoric looking animals. I mean, if I saw this, I would think the thing slithered right out of the Jurassic period. Just imagine having that thing wrap around you and slowly squeeze you to death. I say slowly, it would probably take like 30 seconds for that thing to squeeze the life out of me. Would you stand there filming it, or would you get the hell away from it? What you're looking at here is an African rock python. I know you don't really need me to tell you this, but it's a very big one. It was spotted by a man named Jason Moolman on a farm in Ballito, South Africa. Just look at how fast this thing moves, despite how large it is. These snakes can grow to be absolutely massive, easily reaching lengths of up to about 13 feet or about 4 meters, making them one of the longest snakes in Africa. It can take down prey much larger than itself, including antelope, warthogs, and even the occasional crocodile. What makes them even more impressive is how they use their surroundings. African rock pythons are incredibly versatile. They'll take shelter in caves, burrows, or even in abandoned termite mounds, making them hard to spot unless you know exactly where to look. And don't think they're limited to the ground either. These snakes are excellent climbers and can often be found lounging in trees, waiting for their next meal to wander by. This is a 34-foot, 990-pound anaconda that was discovered at a construction site in Brazil. Again, a giant-sized anaconda. I don't know if it's actually 34 feet. That's getting sorta close to the real-life length of a Titanoboa, which reached up to 50 feet long, but who the hell knows what's lurking in the Amazon. The more illegal logging they're doing out there, the more stuff they're gonna find. Now, unfortunately, I don't think they let this snake go. There's another video of what I believe is the exact same snake strapped down to some equipment, with the cameraman panning across its body just to show how truly massive it is. It's impressive for sure, but it's sad the thing was killed like this. Next up, we have the battle of the century, cobra versus python. Which snake used to name countless 80s movie villain gangs will come out on top? Take a look. Well, the python appears to be winning at first. It's got its body coiled around the cobra's head, but then you notice the cobra has part of the python's body in its mouth. So if the python can choke out the cobra before getting sucked into the massive python's mouth, maybe it'll win. Unfortunately, the video ends before we get to find out who wins, and maybe that's because neither won. Maybe both snakes turned their attention to the person filming, just like the tagline for Alien vs. Predator said, no matter who wins, we lose. If you're thinking this video is fake, or at the very least a rare instance, well, you'd be surprised. Fights between cobras and pythons have been known to happen before. In this brutal fight that happened in Thailand a couple years ago, a python had itself wrapped around a king cobra who managed to break free of its grasp before devouring the thing whole. So it happens. In the heart of the Amazon rainforest, there's a creature that's been the stuff of legends for generations. The Yaku Mama. The name comes from the Quechua language, where Yaku means water and Mama, of course, means mother. So it translates to mother of the waters. This giant serpent is said to live in the deep rivers, lakes, and swamps of the Amazon, and it's a creature that's been talked about by indigenous cultures in countries like Peru, Brazil, Colombia, and Ecuador. The Yaku Mama is often described as a massive serpent, sometimes said to be up to 160 feet long, and it's believed to be powerful enough to swallow entire boats or even small islands. People say it has the ability to consume anything within a 350-foot radius. The stories tell of its strength and size, but there's more. Some say it can shapeshift, control the weather, and even heal or harm those who encounter it. While different tribes have their own names for the creature, the tales all describe a giant river-dwelling snake. In modern times, some explorers have claimed to spot it, with one father-son team, Mike and Greg Warner, even saying they captured it on camera during an aerial survey of the rainforest. But most scientists think these stories may have been inspired by the fossilized remains of prehistoric serpents like the Titanoboa. Again though, the Amazon is massive. I would not be surprised if there was a giant serpent lurking somewhere deep in the forest. So just what the hell is going on here? I've said this many times on the channel, I do not speak Spanish. Can anyone tell me what these guys are yelling in this video? I'm guessing it's something like, holy crap, look at the size of that thing. That's a chonker of a snake. Oh no, my van, that sort of thing. That thing is so big, I wouldn't have been surprised if it crushed that vehicle like a plastic water bottle. How horrifying. It's like you're actually witnessing a scene from Jurassic Park play out right in front of your eyes. Sounds cool, but in real life, I mean, you can hear how panicked these folks are in the video, except for the one dude just casually walking by in the background. He had places to be, I guess. Here's where you never want to be though, in an anaconda's turf, the water. Sure, these things can slither around on land too, but I'm sure they're faster in the water. Well, this dude gets up close and personal with one, and at first it doesn't look all that frightening, but then you get a real sense of this thing's size. Take a look. First of all, we mostly see its head throughout the video, right? But when it starts swimming away, just look how thick the thing's body is, and of course, how long. Imagine being trapped in the water with that thing tangled around you. Like, good luck. Man, like, drowning is such a scary enough thing as is. I've nearly drowned like twice in my life, and I don't think the lifeguard at the community center pool would have been able to rescue me if I had a 15-foot anaconda wrestling with me underwater. There's a snake on my roof. Take a look at this. Well, that would be a pleasant sight to see walking out your house for work in the morning. I think opening up my door to a wall of snow is bad, but I feel like this would be worse, just slightly more inconvenient. Would your boss believe you if you lived in this part of the world? Like, sorry, I'm not gonna make it in today. There's a basilisk just chilling on my roof. Honestly, I might die. I don't even know how this roof is holding that thing up. Anyway, scary video. Alright, this person is just way too close to this thing. This is a massive sized reticulated python spotted slithering around someone's pad. It looks like it might have wanted to check out this person's bike. And yeah, I get it, like you don't want it to ruin your ride, but there is no way I'd ever get this close to something like this, even though it makes for a great video and by extension, just one more thing for me to add to a list like this. One commenter asked if this snake could eat a human, to which I need to ask, did you actually watch the video or did you just read the description? Yes, that thing could definitely eat a person. Also, kind of looks like it's shedding, so it might be trying to find a hard surface to rub against to get its old layer of skin off, which you'd probably be able to build a crispy hammock out of, as gross as that would be. Alright, it's really not surprising that there are legends of giant river monsters like the Yakumama I discussed earlier when you see footage like this. Yeah, looks like a living dinosaur to me. Supposedly this footage was taken somewhere in the Amazon where we can clearly see a very large anaconda crossing a river. And I am just really glad I live where I do sometimes. Sure, it gets cold, but at least that means that giant snakes like this aren't gonna show up at your door or on your roof, or at the lake where you're swimming, or in your garage where your motorcycle is parked, or at the construction site you're working at. There's virtually no threat of being choked to death by a giant snake, and I'm all for that. Did you catch that? Here it is zoomed in and slowed down. So this footage comes from a man named Todd Standing. He's pretty well known in the Bigfoot enthusiast community. He's filmed a few pretty famous alleged pieces of Sasquatch footage, including this one here, which according to him was his first close-up sighting with one of the creatures. After the creature left, Todd and some of his crew apparently made their way up the cliff to try and determine how big this thing really was, and to them it looked like the thing may have been well over 8 feet tall. This footage was famous enough to show up on an episode of Finding Bigfoot, where they tried to recreate the footage by having one of the bigger guys on the team stand on the same ledge so they could try and get a sense of the creature's size in the video, and what they found was that the thing in the video was noticeably taller and bulkier. But ultimately, they couldn't definitively say whether Todd Standing's video was genuine or a hoax. This next video comes from Dee's Dark Adventures on YouTube. Seems she had a run-in with someone or something lurking in the trees while on a hike one night in Ohio. It starts when she sees a pair of eyes glaring at her from the shadows. She gets rightfully spooked and decides to make her way out of the forest, but whatever was watching her follows her. She makes it into a clearing and spots the thing again staring at her from the tree line. See how high up the eyes go when it stands up? At this point, she's in full panic mode and screams for whatever it is to just stop, but then it comes out from the trees and she can't tell if what she's looking at is a human or an animal of some kind. Creepy video. I like how she sounds genuinely terrified and panicked. And because it's Ohio, gotta wonder if that is the Ohio Grassman. Kind of their version of Bigfoot. Watch our Ohio videos to learn more about that. This is a really cool video. I mean, that thing looks terrifying. So this footage was taken on a stationary camera. I don't think anyone's standing there filming this. At least that's what we're led to believe here. I guess the idea is this was taken on a game camera or something, but clearly we see this big hairy man beast crouching in the bush. And when it stands up, it starts slamming logs and branches around. I don't know about you, but this is how I actually picture Bigfoot looking. It has this almost human face, but of course, covered in this mane of unkempt fur. It's a creepy video, and we get a look at the thing for a good long time too. And not that it would be impossible for a regular person to lift a dead tree like that and slam it into the ground, but if this is a hoax, the person in the suit is pretty strong. So this is an impressive hoax, if it is one. I don't know. This footage was taken in southern Ontario, Canada by YouTuber Timber Giant Bigfoot. It's become a pretty well-known piece of video, sometimes referred to as the Big Red footage. This guy had his camera on the creature for a good stretch of time. This isn't just some blurry figure walking through the woods from like a mile away. Now, whatever the thing is, it looks big and hairy. Also doesn't really appear to be a bear. There really only are black bears in this part of the country, and this thing does not look like a black bear. Anyway, he has a bit of a hard time keeping his camera on the thing because he's zooming in from a fair distance. I wouldn't want to get too close either. He films for a good few minutes before the big creature gets up and walks off. What you're looking at here is footage taken by cryptozoologist Paul Freeman. Paul Freeman is still regarded as one of the most important investigators in the Bigfoot community. This video was captured in the Blue Mountains of Northeast Oregon in 1994, and it's often referred to as one of the best pieces of Sasquatch video evidence. Aside from this video, Paul Freeman was also well known for his plaster casts he made out of supposed Bigfoot tracks. The casts were studied quite a bit because they showed dermal ridges, and anthropologists like Jeff Meldrum of Idaho State University considered the casts highly credible pieces of possible evidence and put a lot of time and effort into studying them. As for this video, is it genuine, a hoax? It could go either way, but I like that we get a pretty good look at the creature here, enough to see a bit of a face rather than just a dark blur somewhere off in the distance. Well, we can't really call this thing Bigfoot, Littlefoot maybe, Sasquatch Jr. This footage was posted by a woman named Stephanie Wood to the Bigfoot Believers Facebook group. In her post, Stephanie shared this blurry image of what she claims could be a baby Sasquatch, or a squatchlet, a term sometimes used to describe smaller, more elusive Bigfoot-like creatures. Along with the original photo, she posted a cropped close-up of the figure, saying that while the first instinct might be to dismiss it as a person in a costume, after a closer inspection, she's just not sure. She wrote, "Could this be a baby Sasquatch, or one of those hairy little people that pop up in reports every now and then?" Now, what I'd like to ask is, sorry, who are these little hairy people that pop up in reports every now and again? My brain needs to learn more about this. Anyway, some commenters are convinced by the photo, with one person claiming that the deer in the foreground really makes it more believable, and I gotta say, I didn't think of this at first, but I think I agree. It's not easy to get that close to a deer. They'll usually just have run off long before you get a chance to get this distance from it, let alone pose for a photo like this, but maybe deer are more comfortable with young Sasquatches. So I remember this one really creeping me out when I first saw it over a decade ago. The story here is that this video was taken in Carbondale, Pennsylvania, where residents had apparently been reporting strange sightings and eerie noises at night, with some even spotting a creature resembling Bigfoot. But this creature was different. It was described as being white in color, more like a yeti. One local homeowner managed to capture this video of the creature after hearing a disturbance in their backyard, which is surrounded by dense woods. Now, some people are kind of thrown by the cameraman's reaction here. He sees this furry white monster dashing through the trees at night, and his reaction is a pretty casual sounding, "What was that?" Well, some commenters disagree, saying the subdued reaction actually sounds pretty convincing. One commenter wrote, "As far as the reaction of the photographer, 'What was that?' it's not too hard to understand. When looking out in the darkness, things are not as easily recognizable. Also, he does not have the luxury of viewing the creature on YouTube in slow motion, and the mind barely has time to make a judgment of what it is." But what are your judgments on this one? Let us know down below. This video was taken in Algonquin Park, Ontario, Canada in 2010 with a bumper mounted GoPro. Zooming in and slowing things down, you can clearly see a large dark figure standing by the side of the road. Now, the video was taken by an unnamed man who sent it to the Ontario Wildlife Research Bigfoot group, who released it. One interesting point that a YouTuber named Snowwalker Prime made, who analyzed and reposted this footage, is that walking around in a gorilla suit in this neck of the woods really is ill-advised. You could easily get mistaken for a bear and get taken out by a hunter. So if this is a hoax, it's a kind of dangerous one. What I also like about this footage is that the original video was over an hour long. The guy filming apparently took lots of videos of his drives through the area. This was just one small piece edited down, and it just makes the footage a little more convincing. Plus, the figure does not look human. If that is a suit, it's a really good one. It's got those long arms, it's big, it's a good one. This video was taken in Alaska, posted to the YouTube channel Patua76, who wrote in the description, "I was on a logging road in Ketchikan hiking with my friend when I saw it. Boy, did my heart start racing. I was about 40 yards from the road, not sure if it knew I was there or not because of the noise flowing from water from the stream. It seemed to travel fast. It made my hair stand up. At one point you can see a whitish yellowish thing in its hand. You could see it jump, and after that point it just seems to disappear. There was a lot of brush and trees between it and I. I could not tell where it had gone. It was a scary, sort of exciting feeling at the same time. We went to search for tracks, but the riverbed where we thought it was walking was full of perfect skipping rocks. We found no prints." Now, after filming the creature walking behind a tree, the cameraman loses sight of it, and after scanning the trees for a bit, he decides to get out of there. And yeah, the last thing you'd want is to see a Bigfoot and then not know where it is around you. That's a scary idea. So I don't have a lot of info on this last one, only that it was captured by a group of hikers in Colorado. Take a look at this. Alright, so a pretty hectic video, right? The camera is shaky as hell. We only get a quick glimpse of the creature before it runs into the brush. But all the same, the thing does look massive. And let's be honest, if you found yourself in this situation, would you really be holding the camera perfectly steady and getting like Stanley Kubrick level steady shots of the thing? Yeah, probably not.
I'm not gonna lie, this is impressive, fake or not. The everyday person is not able to lift a 30 to 50 pound pine tree like that and swing it over its head. Unless someone was purposely training in the gym like that with a barbell, which is roughly the same weight. But this thing picks it up like it's a baseball bat, swings it up and brings it down hard on another stack of branches. I was watching this video and was feeling a little anxious myself. When it looks at the camera, that's where it kind of loses me, because it looks a little too human-like, but has one of the most intense stares I've ever seen as it locks eyes with us down the barrel of the camera. I couldn't tell you why he's ripping up the forest like this. You know, maybe he's building a little nest to attract some pretty female Bigfoot tests. Even at the end, this guy's height is quite huge, and he's standing next to pine trees. I'm not good at measuring by eye, so I'm gonna leave y'all to figure that one out. Overall, very entertaining video, despite it possibly being fake, because I was impressed by the raw strength. Ain't nothing like the comfort of driving in the middle of the night on a road that's covered in snow, making it even more difficult to even attempt at trying to drive away if something came after you. Thankfully, nothing does for these guys, who apparently spotted a Yeti, which is a part of the same family as a Bigfoot, fun fact, in Russia. This was all caught on camera with their dash cam, and on their drive, spotted, at least what it appears to me, a man ran and jumped over a snowbank, crossed the road, and and into the darkness whence it came. This one doesn't appear as tall as the one in the first video, and it looks to be around my height. Maybe a younger Yeti? If my height is considered to be an average height of a baby Yeti, I'm going to scream. I think it's clear though that this wasn't CGI at least, because as they get closer to where they spotted the monster, we even get to see the footprints it left behind. At first, it looks like they didn't even realize the footprints were there until they stopped the car and reversed themselves to get a better look. Personally, that's an interesting little thing to have, because the majority of fake videos would either end at the sighting, but adding in such a natural human gesture like that of taking a double take of the footprints just seemed really intriguing to me. It just feels right to include more of the Yeti Bigfoot in these videos due to it being December and around Christmas time. The clip is pretty straightforward. We see what appears to be a white speck make its way across the side of a cliff at a pretty decent speed, and not the usual tempo that people struggle with while their feet are being absolutely vacuumed by the frozen water beneath them. The creators of this video also included some interesting footage of the supposed footprints around the area where it was seen. But this is where it loses me, because when they zoom in on the prints, sure, they look pretty cool at first, but footprints don't usually appear like they're walking on a tightrope. You gotta stagger them, not make them completely straight. I will give you props though, because I'm finding it difficult to how you would have managed to pull it off without leaving any prints yourself. Drone mayhaps? Another beefy boy, but this time he's got some red coloring unlike the usual black majority of us are used to. This video was uploaded to the channel Sasquatch Confessions, so I think the original filmer was left anonymous. From how I'm seeing it, the guy filming happened to find the Sasquatch on a trail path and had originally mistaken it for a bear until it got up and walked away. It seemed to know he was there. I mean, yeah, you're in an open area and you're pointing a camera directly at him, I would notice you too. And then this alleged beast gets up to leave. He is quite the size. Tall? Not so much, but wide? Oh yes, he's got that moto build. Dare I say, he also looks mighty cuddly too. He looks like he's in his bulking phase for hibernation, and I can only imagine the hug I could give this thing. As for convincing me, I'm not sure, because he kind of walks away like he's a giant puppet. No arm swing, no stretching of muscles as he moves. The uploader of this video has the YouTube channel named Gulf Island Rock and titled this finding as Bigfoot Sasquatch sighting near Port Renfrew on Vancouver Island. All that's really given to us is the view of this guy's hairy gray back. Points for giving us another new color to see. Really refreshes the brain after a while of just seeing a sea of black fur. I was really waiting on something exciting for a video that was almost 2.5 minutes long. I was almost hoping the beast would turn around, see the camera guy, and just start chasing him. Something to keep the viewers engaged, you know? If it's fake, the costume design is pretty well done. It doesn't look like those cheap Party City animal outfits where you can see the plastic shine under the light. I give it a good 4 out of 5 on the cosplay aspect, but a 2 out of 10 for intriguing footage. No offense. I'm not the one to judge Bigfoot and what he consumes, but drinking water out of the swamp? You must have a gut of steel to be able to stomach that. All its dangerous organisms and probably leeches that live in there? It seems like this person was on a canoe or something trying to get this shot, because why would you dare walk bare in it? And manage to catch an alleged Bigfoot taking a sip of the yummy swamp water, and then ends up getting a little too silly and starts splashing around in the water. He's just a silly little creepy guy. If this is also some wild animal though, the person who filmed this should be considered lucky that it didn't start charging its way over. This one also seems much smaller than the other Bigfoots we've seen, because I'm always expecting a guy who's at least 10 feet with their feet bigger than my head. This is more like a medium foot from my scientific perspective. What is the sudden wave of these baby foots? We want to see big boys towering over us, whacking pine trees around like the first video. I want to be so scared that I never want to step foot into the woods again. Speaking of, these guys seem to have stumbled upon an itty bitty Sasquatch on a hike somewhere in the Provo Canyon. It doesn't seem to notice them until closer to the end of the video, where the alleged creature stands up and terrifies our crew of hikers. Yes, shaking running camera footage never fails to make the adrenaline rise. Works in every found footage horror movie. But come on guys, this thing doesn't even look that big. It doesn't even have the same muscle mass as the other monsters in this video. I'm not convinced, and I'm disappointed. Show me the big back boys. Here we go, some more big backs. But sadly, this clip is so short, I am unable to fully be immersed in this experience with the uploader. I will give props though that the atmosphere setup for this footage is perfect. We got the fog, we got the cloudy sky that's making it look darker, and we got the snow that reminds us about all the absolute decay that surrounds us. Perfect Yeti footage. This guy looks like a giant snowball because of his round shape and white fur. Another Bigfoot to add onto my list for cuddling. For once, I gotta say I wish this video was a bit more clear. You did a bit too much on the scuff for this one. I can't even make out what the creature is doing to even describe it to y'all. Is it bent over? Is it making snowballs to hurl at you? But I will say, get the heck out of the open area. You are leaving yourself too vulnerable for these things to come and grab you, which you thankfully seem to realize at the end when you freak out and run away, as you should.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the military mission. This story is one that is said to have come from a Peruvian ex-commando named Juan Carlos. He is said to have quite the resume that includes being able to survive for 11 days in the jungle with only his smarts and a small knife, and while that is certainly impressive, of course we are all here today to talk about his giant snake sighting. Juan Carlos explained that at one point in time when he was on a mission deep in the Amazon with his army unit, they encountered and subsequently shot a 40-foot long snake. He went on to explain that the leaders of the unit took the remains of the snake, which he now assumed are hanging on some officer's wall somewhere, which never allowed him to have the catch verified, but this story has only fueled his fire to once again encounter a snake of that size. Juan Carlos is absolutely certain that should he go out on an expedition, that he could find another giant snake that is over 30 feet, because he says he knows where the right places to look are. In our number 9 spot today, we have the TikTok sighting. According to the TikTok account Google Maps Fun, which is an account that shares fun or interesting things they found while searching the world through Google Maps, they seem to have found some sort of giant snake off of the coast of France. The TikTok, which was posted earlier this year, shows the images from Google Maps that seems to show a gigantic snake skeleton that the user states is, quote, about 30 meters long and bigger than any snake caught before. This of course has fueled many theories that this snake could in fact be a Titanoboa. The TikTok was circulated around the app and gained millions of views, and I can totally see why. It definitely would be a strange thing to suddenly come across while scouring satellite images. While everyone has been searching the Amazon, maybe the Titanoboa has just been in France all along. In our number 8 spot today, we have the fisherman. This is a legend that comes from long ago, and it starts off somewhere in a rainforest in Peru. Hundreds of years ago, there was a fisherman who was from a tribe that lived near what is now the modern-day city of Pucallpa. He journeyed by canoe deep into the jungle and went off the main river path by following a little inlet that led to a hidden lake. He usually took this path as he knew the hidden lake was a great spot to catch food. As he got to his spot, things were very quiet, and he knew that that meant he was going to catch enough food for everyone. As he looked for the best place to cast his net, however, something began to stir in the water. As the fisherman looked up, he saw a great head emerge from the water right in the center of the lake. He suddenly realized that it was the head of a serpent, but not just any serpent, as the head alone was the size of the entire fisherman's body. The snake stared at him as he panicked and threw himself to shore. As he ran away as fast as possible, he turned and looked over his shoulder, only to see the snake moving toward him through the water. The fisherman was lucky enough to escape the giant serpent that day, and he returned back to the village with the story, which has lived on throughout the hundreds of years it's been since. This is why it is said that giant snakes might just be seen in any river or inlet of the Peruvian Amazon. In our number 7 spot today, we have the Borneo sighting. This giant snake sighting is said to have come from a few years ago, as there was a disaster team that was monitoring floods above the island of Borneo. The team is said to have been flying overhead in a helicopter when the sighting happened, and one member thought what they were seeing was so surprising they even snapped a picture. It is said that this gigantic snake could have been around 100 feet in length, which is absolutely insane, and the story and the photo went on to spark some concern among those who live in the area. It is said that this sighting only confirmed what locals in the area have long been worried about, which is the existence of an ancient sea serpent. Some even believe that this serpent has the ability to transform itself into different forms of animals. For me, that one might be a stretch, but who am I to say for sure? In our number 6 spot today we have the Ranger. This is a story that is said to have come from a ranger who works near the Amazon River Basin. On a day where he was patrolling around the area, he saw what he estimated to be a 45-foot long anaconda. The ranger took the people that he was telling the story to where he said he saw this gigantic snake, and they all began to try and spot it again. While they were on this search, they had a young boy with them who was from the area. As they got a little downstream from where they were initially looking, the boy showed them another spot that he explained that he and his uncle were when they saw a giant snake that came crashing through the weeds. The pair was of course extremely startled by this sighting and got out of there as soon as they possibly could. Since then, they've been on the lookout for the giant snake, but have yet to have another sighting. In our number 5 spot today we have the Huntsman. This story starts off many years ago and it takes place in Peru. It is said that here a local huntsman went into the jungle in search of some game to feed his family. As he was on the hunt for food, the weather began to change and suddenly the sky began to get darker. He started a fire, but upon doing so, it is said that he felt the earth begin to shake, sort of like a small earthquake. This led to him putting out the fire. The following day, he was cutting through thick areas of the forest when he struck a large ancient tree trunk that he said was about 60 meters tall and blocking his path. At the base of this trunk, however, he then noticed a deer just standing there, which is obviously odd. As the hunter began to walk towards the deer, it suddenly disappeared into the base of the trunk. This is when the hunter suddenly understood that this is no tree. The trunk is the body of a giant serpent, and at the base there is a gigantic gaping mouth that is attached to a head that has red glowing eyes and horn-like ears. The hunter slowly backed away, realizing that the earth rumbling he felt the night before was likely the serpent being startled at the lighting of the fire. He evaded death because although he mistakenly struck the giant snake, it thankfully hadn't noticed, and without the deer there, he possibly wouldn't have even realized what was really going on. The huntsman was able to make it out of there and was sure to pass the story on when he returned home. This is the story or the legend of the Sasquatch, which has been around for centuries. Many believe that the tales of this creature were in fact inspired by the very real existence of the Titanoboa. In our number 4 spot today we have Percy's sighting. Percy Fawcett is a famous explorer who is best known for his search for the lost city of Z, but he is also known for his alleged Titanoboa sighting. In 1906, it is said that he was traveling through the Amazon River when he came across a gigantic snake. He didn't even only claim to see it though, he also claimed that he shot it. He said the snake was 65 feet long and that it was at least 1 foot in diameter. After his alleged shot, it is said that the snake sunk back down into the water and out of sight of the explorer. No one is quite sure of what happened to this gigantic snake after its encounter with Percy, but he is said to have had no doubts over what exactly he saw in the river that day. In our number 3 spot today we have tunnels. There were a couple of adventurers or explorers or whatever you want to call them who went to Peru in search of the Titanoboa. As part of their research, they of course spent time speaking with those local to the area so as to hear their stories of the giant snake in the hopes of maybe getting some insider info on where they could find it. They explained that one night when they camped at a village on the Samaria River, they spent an entire evening listening to these types of stories and they were absolutely astounded. One person explained seeing a 60-foot long snake that was half in the water and half out. After hearing this story, it is said that an elder from the village explained that the giant snakes use underground tunnels in order to move between lakes, which is probably the most terrifying thing I've ever heard, but this could explain why, should the Titanoboa still exist, it is rarely ever seen. In our number 2 spot today we have the duo. In 2009, a man named Mark Warner and his son Greg traveled from Northern Ireland to the Amazon basin in search of this gigantic snake that legends are made of. They were determined to capture evidence of its existence, and they assembled a team and set out on a mission to prove it. They surveyed their selected areas through aerial views and set off on their adventure. After 12 days in the jungle, surviving through intense weather and taking hundreds of photos and videos, it is said that they did end up capturing a photo of what they claimed to be a huge snake, bigger than any other, measuring around 40 meters or 131 feet long and 2 meters or 6 feet wide. That is an unbelievable size. Many people of course have been a bit suspicious about these claims, but the pair are determined to head back out on another expedition to capture the creature again. It seems as though we might just have to wait again to see if the pair really can pull it off. In our number 1 spot today we have the Maine monster. This is a snake sighting sighting that comes from Maine, and it has been confusing people ever since. Originally posted on the Facebook page of the Westbrook Police Department, they wrote, quote, "We have received a legitimate report concerning a very large snake present at the Riverbank Park. The report was the snake is as long as a truck and the head the size of a soccer ball. The snake was reportedly observed on the riverbank to the rear of the playground on both the Main Street and Brown Street side of the river." Okay. Definitely not what anyone in the neighborhood wants to hear, especially not from the police page itself, but things only went on to get more concerning. A few days later, an update was posted to the page that included a photo. This photo showed a huge shed snakeskin that looked as though it was shed quite recently. Any snake that thing belongs to has got to be too large for comfort. This went on to create quite a local legend, and rumors about what this humongous creature could be began to spread. While this may not be the largest snake on this list, the proof of its existence certainly is chilling. It is said that people even tested the skin to see what kind of snake it belonged to, and rumor has it that there was in fact some Titanoboa DNA found.
And we're starting off the list with the Alabama sighting. So I tried to throw in some recent sightings for this list because we've all seen the famous Patterson footage. It's cool, but good to change things up a bit. So this one was reported by an elderly couple in Claiborne County, Alabama, and was posted on the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization website. The witnesses stated, "My husband and I heard strange sounds for 2 nights in February of 2023 and laughed about how they sounded like the Bigfoot sounds on television shows. The 3rd night at dusk, we were in our carport looking into the woods that border our property in Helphin, Claiborne County, Alabama. We saw what looked like Bigfoot peeking around a tree at us. We watched it for approximately 5 minutes as it appeared to look at us from the left and then right of the tree trunk. I dismissed it as being a distortion within the trees and wind, turned to go into the house and looked back and distinctly saw what could only be Bigfoot running away. I yelled for my husband and he also saw it running away. It had our hearts beating wildly and the hair standing up on our arms. There was no mistaking what we saw." At our number 9 spot, we have our first piece of Squatch footage for you. In this clip, you can clearly see a very large hairy creature strolling through a wooded area. Now, what I like about this one is the shape of the creature. If this is someone in a costume, it's a pretty good one. It doesn't have the proportions of a human. It's very gorilla-like. This is a thick Squatch too, packing some gains in the tushy area. But also the back is massive and its head is like hunched in front. With so many supposedly real Bigfoot sightings videos, like the quote-unquote Bigfoot, rarely looks like it's carrying the weight of a massive sized hominid. Usually Bigfoot videos just look very blurry to make sense of anything too, or when you do see the creature, it just lacks the bulk that's often reported in first-hand Bigfoot accounts, just like a person in a cheap gorilla suit. But this one doesn't look human. A solid video, even if it is a hoax. At number 8, we have the Minerva monster case. In 1978, in Minerva, Ohio, the Caton family reported encountering a large, Bigfoot-like creature near their home. Their account included rocks thrown at their house and the discovery of enormous footprints in their backyard. Their dog was also mysteriously died, just mauled. This was not an isolated incident though. Several neighbors and other residents in the area also claimed sightings of a similar hairy creature around that same time, and this series of encounters became widely known as the Minerva monster case, drawing significant media attention. Jim Shannon, a former Stark County sheriff who had responded to one of the Caton family's distress calls, expressed his belief in their reports, stating that they were terrified. "I will always believe them that they saw something. It's just, what did they see?" At number 7, we have another recent sighting, also posted to the BFRO, this time in Wisconsin. The sighting happened on May 28th, 2023. A woman had been driving down a road in the early morning in Oconto County when she spotted the creature. This area in northern Oconto County, Wisconsin, is mostly wooded with swamp near the Oconto River. As I near the corner, I saw a black and brown large figure of a man that I thought may have been someone that broke down on the trail as it was walking south towards Peshtigo Brook Road. I stopped at the corner as I could not believe what I was looking at, trying to wrap my head around it and convince myself it was a man as it was walking on two legs and had taken from what I saw about 10 steps toward me. However, there was no sound, no yelling for help or waving the arms, and no human-colored skin. It was in fact a dark black and brown figure with large legs and even at the base towards the feet. It was hairy. It was not a bear though, and it was not a human. I looked around the corner and could see in the distance down North Branch Road that a human was walking east towards me in that direction. I then looked back and the large black-brown figure went into the ditch and disappeared. I was convinced it had to be a Sasquatch. Number 6. Help, I think I saw a skunk ape. This video was posted to YouTube by Josh Highcliffe and is probably one of the most convincing Bigfoot, or in this case technically skunk ape, pieces of footage in recent years. The video was taken about 9 miles west of Tunica, Mississippi at around 6 p.m. in October of 2013. Josh had been hunting for hogs when he spotted the creature. He'd been sitting on a log waiting for the sun to go down when he heard strange noises coming from behind him, and when he turned around, he spotted this large, dark, furry creature digging out the stump of a dead tree. Now, I gotta say, I try to be skeptical when it comes to things like this. Cryptids, ghosts, whatever. But this video is pretty convincing. That looks like an animal messing around in the forest to me. Creepiest part is when the thing stands up and you see that it's way taller than you thought, and it was at this point that our cameraman was convinced that this was not a bear and decided to get the hell out of there. Number 5, Backyard Bigfoot. The following is a story shared to Reddit by user Bigfoot Watcher. Post is from 9 years back, and they wrote the following. 2 nights ago, my boyfriend went out to take the dogs out back. My one dog started barking like crazy right away. My boyfriend had a flashlight and quickly scanned the grass line where the woods start, where we normally see deer. Our house is bordered by woods. Something made him shine a bit higher, and he sees 2 eyes staring back at him, about 9 feet off the ground. As my boyfriend tries to hurry the dogs back inside, he sees the thing turn and casually walk back into the woods like a man, with arms and shoulders. I've never seen my boyfriend so freaked out. He came inside and closed every single window and all the blinds, and refuses to let the dogs out in the backyard at night anymore. In hindsight, there have been a few instances in the past few weeks that we can't explain, like dogs' toys being down by the woods with bites taken out, but it was the placement of the toys and whatnot that makes us wonder. Also, a grunt snort noise we heard recently. My boyfriend cannot get over the size of this thing and the fact that the eyes were so high off the ground. I asked him if he thought he saw Bigfoot, and he said after a minute or so of silence, if I wasn't a believer before, I sure as hell am one now. Next on the list, we have the nighttime Bigfoot. I'm not 100% sold on this next clip, but it is pretty harrowing at the same time. Check this out. So you have people filming in the woods in the middle of the night. They've obviously heard something because they're scanning the woods with their camera, trying to spot whatever it is. And then this pops up. A big, hairy Sasquatch creature with a really creepy looking face. One little touch I like about this video is that you actually see it blink. It definitely makes it more convincing. I feel like if I saw this, I wouldn't be sticking around though. After the creature trudges back into the trees, they just kind of stand there breathing heavily. But I don't know, maybe they were shocked, frozen in fear. Anyway, what do you think of this one? Let me know in the comments. At number 3, we have another account posted to the BFRO. This one happened in September of 2018 in Whitmore, California. The man described his experience as follows. I was driving up to work from Redding. I worked at a school in Whitmore, California, in Shasta County. That was only accessible from a logging road. As I was going up the mountain, I rounded a corner, and about 300 feet from me and maybe 400 feet from Tintago Lane, a tall, hairy creature, dark brown with some gray along the back shoulders, walking on 2 legs, crossed the road, which is wide enough for 2 cars to pass each other, in about 2 steps, and then was in the woods. The hair on the back of my neck instantly stood up, and I was terrified. I had my 11-month-old son in the back seat, and I drove to campus as quickly as I could. There were major wildfires in the area at this time. Maybe it was trying to get away from the fires or incredibly unhealthy smoke. Several of my coworkers on that campus have had experiences as well. Alright, this next video was uploaded to the YouTube channel Beard Card in 2012 and has since received millions of views. A group of friends had gone camping in Provo Canyon. They'd seen some deer on a hill and went to get a closer look. There they spotted what they thought was a bear. You can hear them whispering to each other in the video. I mean, like, seeing a bear, that would obviously be pretty nerve-wracking as is. But then the thing stands up and once again becomes very clear that what they are looking at is not a bear. The thing is very wide. It doesn't look like it has the proportions of a human at all, at least not a regular sized one. It really, I don't know, just the idea of seeing something in the woods, you don't know what it is. This video really gets that across, and the reactions just seem genuine, like, oh, like they thought it was a bear the entire time, and then it stands up and they're like, okay, go. Anyway, coming in at number 1, we have the Harley Hoffman footage. I remember seeing this clip years ago. It was edited into an interview with Harley Hoffman, a Bigfoot explorer, researcher, enthusiast, I guess. I couldn't find the footage again until recently. This is footage that he captured. It's a pretty solid piece of footage too. You get a good glimpse of the creature. It doesn't look like just some guy in a cheap gorilla costume either. There actually looks like some musculature underneath the fur, much like the famous Patterson footage, which is why that footage is so famous. It doesn't look like just a guy in a suit. Now, there is some shaky cam going on here, but I have a hard time imagining if you actually came across a giant ape in the middle of the forest that you'd be calm enough to do some nice smooth Stanley Kubrick level of camera work, so that doesn't bother me too much.
Number 10, how they live. In Washington state, a team of amateur Bigfoot researchers called the Olympic Project claimed to have discovered a collection of nests which belonged to Bigfoot. They had primatologists study them, with the conclusion being that they appear to have been created by a primate. There have been structures of broken and twisted foliage seemingly placed in specific areas, which have been attributed by some to Bigfoot behavior. In some reports, lodgepole pine and other small trees have been observed bent, uprooted, or stacked in patterns such as weaved and crisscrossed, leading to some to theorize that they are potential territorial markings. Some instances have included entire deer skeletons being suspended in high trees. Some Bigfoot researchers allege that Bigfoot throws rocks as territorial displays and for communication and audible blows struck against trees or wood knocking. Number 9, where the species came from. Primatologist John R. Napier and anthropologist Gordon Strensenberg have suggested a species of Paranthropus as a possible candidate for the Bigfoot's identity, such as Paranthropus robutus with its gorilla-like crest skull and bipedal gait. Paranthropus is characterized by robust skulls with a prominent gorilla-like sagittal crest among the middle line, which suggests strong chewing muscles and broad herbivorous teeth used for grinding. Now, it's great that they believe this, but fossils of Paranthropus are found only in Africa, so it wouldn't really explain Bigfoot being in North America, but maybe it's something similar. Number 8, research. Doing scientific research, Steve Moon, who has 3 MFAs and a master's in anthropology, has studied Bigfoot for the past 10 years, and he claims to have had at least 12 sightings. If you want credibility to build these theories, if you want to test, you want to actually discover things, then you've got to follow that method, he said. His ultimate goal is to prove Bigfoot's existence so the species may be appreciated and preserved. We all know that he exists, but now we need to find a way for science to accept the data, he said. While on a trail in the forest, Steve mimicked a Bigfoot's howl and he could hear a response. It was recorded and the recorder picked up a faint animal-like sound after his howl. Though it is almost inaudible, there is something there. Steve said, "I may have gotten a response. It's 2 seconds after my call ends. It's descending, followed by a percussive ascending note. If I were going to interpret this possible response, it sounds like a Sasquatch was offended by my call." Number 7. It's not just one species. Now, all around the world, people tell of mysterious beasts that are part human, part ape, typically large, hairy creatures that walk on 2 legs, but always seem to stay just out of sight. There isn't just a Bigfoot in North America, but there are other beasts as well. A yowie is found in Australia, particularly in the eastern part of the continent. continent. There have been over 3,000 distinct Yowie sightings that have been reported in the Blue Mountain area of west of Sydney. There's the Yeti, which is located in the Himalayas, which is also called the Abominable Snowman. The Orang Penyek is located in central Sumatra, Indonesia. Orang Penyek means a short person in Indonesian, which makes sense because it has a short stature and a human-like face. Local folklore says that these creatures walk with back-pointing feet to confuse anyone trying to track them. And finally, a chemosit is located in east central Kenyan forests. Some witnesses say that the chemosit looks like a hyena or bear and call it a Nandi bear after the Kenyan tribe that lives in its reported range. The Nandi people, however, consider the creature to be an enormous, ferocious primate that enjoys eating the brains of its victims. If there are so many creatures like this around the world, they have to exist then, right? Number 6. The theory. There have been many studies surrounding Bigfoot, and one study was conducted by John Napier and published in his book Bigfoot, the Yeti, and Sasquatch in Myth and Reality in 1973. John wrote that if a conclusion is to be reached based on scant extant hard evidence, science must declare Bigfoot does not exist. However, he found it difficult to entirely reject thousands of alleged tracks scattered over 125,000 square miles, or to dismiss all the many hundreds of eyewitnesses' accounts. John concluded, "I'm convinced that Sasquatch exists, but whether it is all it's cracked up to be is another matter altogether. There must be something in the Northwest America that needs explaining, and that something leaves man-like footprints." Number 5. Recently spotted in Pennsylvania. The Bigfoot Field Organization, aka BFRO, has their own website filled with hundreds of stories of people spotting Bigfoot. On the website, a story was posted by a user saying, "On October 5th, 2022, while my boyfriend and I were biking on the Ghost Town trails near Embensburg, Pennsylvania, we saw a Bigfoot coming about 150 yards in front of us. He was walking along the trail towards us. We couldn't see his face, but when he saw us, he turned around quickly and walked into the woods. As we went by, we looked into the woods and didn't see anything. It was really shocking as there were no sounds or smells. As he was walking, you could see how big his stride was, and there was a huge space between his legs. We thought this was a once-in-a-lifetime thing and thought it was so cool. Yes, Bigfoot does exist." And just in case you think the BFRO just took a submitted report, the site reported that it did a follow-up and spoke with the witnesses. It even names them on the site, and they found their testimony to be credible. The investigator who put it all together, Matthew Moneymaker, who was mentioned in part 1 of the series. If you haven't seen part 1 and part 2, check them out. Number 4. 3 photos of Bigfoot. A keen hunter once claimed to encounter Bigfoot and unveiled shocking photo proof to the world after setting up cameras outside his house. Craig Salk really loved hunting with his wife, and to increase the odds of their hunting success, Craig set up a number of trail cameras on his land. In 2012, one of his cameras snapped a mysterious figure that didn't appear to be animal or human. Luckily, Craig was a big fan of the show Finding Bigfoot on Animal Planet, and he knew exactly what he had to do. He reached out to the TV channel and showed the producers the image captured on his cameras. Animal Planet was massively impressed by the fact that Craig had managed to get 3 snaps of the mysterious creature and filmed an episode with him. After the episode aired, Craig was suddenly a star, and he was flooded with phone calls and visits from Americans who wanted to share their own bizarre paranormal experiences. Craig and his wife soon opened their land to the world to let anyone come out and examine the spot where Bigfoot was seen, take a look at the pictures, and judge for themselves. Number 3. First sighting ever. David Thompson was a surveyor and trader who worked for the Hudson's Bay Company and the Northwest Company. He was considered one of North America's great pathfinders and surveyors as he traveled through Western North America between 1785 and 1812. Once he saw Bigfoot and wrote in his journal of his finding while in Alberta, Canada. He wrote, "January 7th, 1811. Continuing on our journey in the afternoon, we came on the track of a large animal. The snow about 6 inches deep on the ice. I measured it, 4 large toes, each 4 inches in length, to each a short claw. The ball of the foot sunk 3 inches lower than the toes. The hinder part of the foot didn't mark well, the length 14 inches by 8 inches in breadth, walking from north to south, and having passed about 6 hours. As the snow was about 6 inches in depth, the track was well defined, and we could see it for a full 100 yards from us. This animal was proceeding north to south. We did not attempt to follow it, we had no time for it, and the hunters, eager as they are to follow and shoot every animal, made no attempt to follow this beast, for what could the balls of our fowling guns do against such an animal? Number 2. The Battle of Ape Canyon. The most successful launching pad for the public's obsession with Bigfoot is a battle that supposedly took place in a narrow gorge on the east flank of Mount St. Helens. The gorge is now called Ape Canyon. That's where, in the summer of 1924, a group of gold prospectors stumbled out of the woods shaking and glassy-eyed to tell of a 7-foot-tall ape-like animals attacking them with boulders. Fred Beck and 4 others described coming upon gorilla men near where they had built a small cabin. They saw 4 of the giant animals moving through the forest with erect, human-like strides. They were covered with long black hair, their ears were about 4 inches long and stuck straight up. They had 4 toes, short and stubby. The witnesses estimated each animal weighed around 400 pounds. Taken aback at the sight of the huge beasts, Fred fired his rifle at one of the creatures and struck 3 times, resulting in the wounded animal toppling off a cliff. This would be a mistake though, as that night the men were awakened when huge stones began hitting against their cabin. Then they heard and felt giant bodies slamming against the walls and door. The 8 men were seeking revenge and eventually tore a hole in the roof, allowing them to target Fred. Many of the rocks fell through the hole in the roof, and 2 of the rocks struck Fred, one of them rendering him unconscious for nearly 2 hours. Then, when the sun began to come up, the animals broke off their attack and slipped away. The men then poked their heads out the door, and when they decided the coast was clear, they ran out of the woods. And coming in at number 1, Bigfoot kidnapping. In 1924, Albert Ostman, a lumberjack and woodsman, went on vacation in the woods. Albert had heard stories about the man-beast who supposedly roamed these woods but refused to believe them. Then everything changed. One night when he was asleep, a Sasquatch picked him up and carried him off while he was in his sleeping bag. He was carried in a sleeping bag across the country for 3 hours by the Sasquatch. The Sasquatch then dropped Albert down on a plateau, and standing around him was a family of 4 of the creatures, 2 adults and 2 children. Albert claims he was kept captive by them for 6 days. One of the Bigfoots was reported as being 8 feet tall. Now, Albert had a gun, but he decided not to use it as they had done him no harm. He stayed with the Bigfoot family, stating he ate sweet-tasting grass that they gave him, and the female Sasquatch washed and stacked leaves. He escaped by making the large male Sasquatch groggy by feeding him some snuff. Albert did not tell his story for more than 24 years after it happened, in fear of being thought of as crazy. But as more Sasquatch stories appeared in the press, Albert decided to tell his story. Number 10. Strange sounds. A Bigfoot sighting became a federal investigation when a man fired his weapon inside a national park in Kentucky. Brad Ginn told news outlets he and his girlfriend were camping nearby and were awakened at about 1 a.m. by a man with his son. We got out of the tent and saw a man who told us their campsite had been destroyed by someone or something. The man, who was with his young son, showed them his weapon on his hip and told him the area was popular for Bigfoot sightings. The couple climbed back into their tent as the man walked away to investigate with his son in tow. We heard them coming back about 10 minutes later. We heard them yelling, "I see it," Brad said. We saw a flash from his weapon, and he shot maybe 20 yards from the side of our tent into the pitch black darkness. After this, Brad and his girlfriend decided to leave and report the incident, which was the smart thing to do. A park spokeswoman, Molly Schwarr, said there was an investigation and that the park was safe to visit. The statement did not confirm a Bigfoot sighting, but Molly said that no threat remains in the park. Federal regulations prohibit the discharge of a firearm in the national park, and park officials know the identity of the person who allegedly fired the weapon, but no charges had been filed. Number 9. Thrown logs. In 2015, a pair of Bigfoot hunters were hot on the trail of a Bigfoot outside Houston, Texas. While following the beast, they realized the creature was unhappy with their presence. As they began their overnight hunt, the lead investigator realized that something was throwing full-sized logs at them from the tree line. That's according to Wes Germer, host of the Sasquatch Chronicle podcast, whose team ventured into the East Texas piney woods. In the early night, the noise came. We heard this thing crash through the bush, and then we heard this thing start crashing, just crash, 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 and you can hear it walking, and you can hear it breaking branches as it's going. Then the giant bolted off and plowed fiercely through the dense brush with astonishing speed. This thing moved so fast, it probably covered 150 yards like nothing. As we neared the spot where we heard the beast lurking, a noise grew and I knew what it was. It was a log coming, and it was a big log, and you could hear it being thrown. And I ducked down because I thought for sure it was going to hit us, but it hit the tree right in front of us, and I just couldn't believe what was happening. Wes says it was a warning, and that it wasn't the only time Sasquatch has thrown logs at unwelcomed intruders. Number 8. New footprint. In March 2022 in Big Sur, California, a hiker spotted a very large footprint. They took a picture of it next to their own foot for perspective and shared it on Reddit's Bigfoot page, where commenters discussed if they felt the print belonged to a Sasquatch or if it was nothing. And there were plenty of believers. One person wrote, "This is the first imprint I have seen that isn't clearly a bear. Good find." While another stated, "I wish the print was more fresh, but it really does look more like a Bigfoot track," and a third chimed in, "What a solid print." Someone else added, "Definitely Sasquatch. The upper foot impressions is relative to the lower width and diameter of depth. I'd reach out to the local Bresto Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization in your area ASAP." Now it honestly does look huge, and to me, you can even see the toe prints. Seems pretty convincing to me. Number 7. Bigfoot eats hogs. East Texas is the home to many reported sightings of Bigfoot, including one particular encounter from a hunter in Panola County. The witness claims that while he was hog hunting, he watched a Sasquatch leap out of the woods and grabbed one of the hogs. The report states that the Bigfoot began making loud whooping noises, which were met with more howls from somewhere off in the distance. Before walking back into the woods, the creature stared directly at the hunter and growled. Seemed like the hunter got a little too close to Bigfoot territory. Now those whooping sounds would definitely creep me out, especially if there were more coming from the forest. Ugh. Number 6. Face to face. One of the 3 Midland County Bigfoot encounters documented details of a witness discovering an ape-like creature on the first day of hunting season in 1997. The witness claims to have seen the legendary creature on November 15th, 1997 while driving in a wooded area near Coleman on Coleman Road, about 6 miles north of M20. They said, "I was driving north around 6:45 and saw a creature coming out of the ditch." The report describes the creature as having a flat, ape-like face and hair on its arms and head. The witness claims to have come within 10 feet of the creature when it looked at the witness. As the witness got closer to the beast, it made eye contact with him before disappearing into the trees, and that is terrifying. Number 5. Bigfoot likes children. This user tells a story of seeing Bigfoot as a child. They said, "I've had 2 separate sightings here in central Alabama, once when I was about 5 and another when I was 19. The first one, I was at my Nana's house playing outside in a tree house my dad and Pa built for me, and I looked off into the woods and saw a large light brown bipedal creature standing there watching me. So I ran inside to get my Nana, and when we came back out to the tree house, it was gone. The second time, me and my wife were coming back from a buddy's house real late at night, and I saw something large cross on 2 legs in front of a yellow road sign up ahead. These signs were about 10 feet tall, and this thing covered the whole sign when I walked in front of it." Now, many people believe that Bigfoot likes children. While many don't think they actually eat children, they think they might try to kidnap them to keep as pets, as they like to watch kids for the same reason people like to watch kittens or puppies playing, and there's a similar urge to take one home with them. Number 4. Falling Bigfoot. Bigfoot has been reportedly spotted in Colorado more than 100 times in recent years, including one notable daylight spotting that occurred in Summit County, Colorado. In the summer of 2019, a daytime hiker was taking a break near an old log cabin in the area of Mayflower Gulch near Frisco when he spotted something strange at about 11,000 feet of elevation. He reported seeing a large bipedal creature attempting and failing to climb a 20-foot high snow wall. After the failed attempt at scaling scaling the barrier, the creature moved on and out of sight. The hiker was joined by 2 others and they searched the area. During this search, the group was able to locate prints in the snow, including large handprints and footprints. That being said, they were unable to again locate the actual creature. The report prompted Bigfoot Field Research Organization investigator Scott Miles to further look into the report. Scott decided to meet up with the witness at the site of the spotting. At the scene, the witness was able to recount the sighting in a manner consistent with the initial report, pointing out exact landmarks involved in his story. After deeper analysis of the witness's account, Scott said, "I believe that the witness saw exactly what he reported and was witness to a Sasquatch, probably a young individual that accidentally or naively got caught in a compromising situation in the daytime in a fairly high traffic area." Number 3. In the swamp. In 2015, 2 men canoeing in Tampa, Florida swamp were expecting to see an alligator when they heard rustling on the bank. They soon realized that the creature they were watching was no alligator. One of the men said, "Initially, it was exciting. It was like, oh, is that a bear? That's pretty cool." But when we moved closer, it started to look less and less like a bear. In that moment, I was looking at it and getting a little bit freaked out, especially once it started really moving. You could tell that he was slapping the water, and it looked like maybe he was grabbing something. At the time, I was thinking, holy what the hell is this? By the time it walked off, my buddy was just like, let's go now. The friend moved one of the canoe paddles making a noise, which seemed to catch the attention of the hairy individual in the swamp. I don't know if it was a coincidence that it started moving because of the noise, but it seemed to know that we were there. He said his friend was so shaken by the experience that he won't talk about it. Number 2. His face. This user describes what they saw when they came face to face with Bigfoot. They saw the beast in early spring 1994 or 95 in Salt Fork State Park in Ohio, Hazak's Cave. I hope I said that right. He said, "The one I saw had black sclera, the white part of her eyes, and cheek pads like a male orangutan. It was not a man in a suit. It threw rocks at me as I hiked a path towards a small waterfall, and I was a little confused but oblivious. The last rock was bigger and hit me in the calf and hurt. I spun around quickly towards the direction it came from, yelling, 'That really hurt,' thinking it was somebody messing with me, and saw a head from the eyes looking up over a fallen tree or ridge maybe 15 feet away. It looked like an orangutan wearing a ghillie suit. I looked in the eyes for maybe 5 seconds trying to comprehend what I was looking at. Golden brown eyes with black sclera and cheek pads like a male orangutan. It didn't look malicious really, had more of an okay, you got the point look. It casually turned its eyes away and ducked back behind the tree or ridge. Then I realized what I saw and got back to my car. All I could think was that because of his cheek pads, he was the dominant male of the troop. They must have been at the water source that I was hiking towards, and he was keeping me from getting closer. I was maybe 3/4 of the way there, but the smaller rock started at about the halfway point and got gradually bigger until I caught on. I told my brother and best friend, and they didn't believe me, so I dropped or suppressed it for 20 years. I didn't think of it again until I saw a Bigfoot toy and thought they got the face wrong. And coming in at number 1 is the traffic cam sighting. A Washington Department of Transportation traffic camera near Sherman Pass captured Bigfoot standing in the snow in January 2020. At least one person at the Washington State Department of Transportation seems to think they saw Bigfoot after tweeting out some puzzling images captured by one of the department's webcams. "Sasquatch spotted," the Department East Twitter account tweeted, along with 3 circled and zoomed in photos. "I'm not superstitious, just a little stitious." The employee points out that there appears to be something in the bottom left part of the frame. It looks like a person-shaped figure silhouetted against an evergreen tree. "Might be Sasquatch, we will leave that up to you," the tweet said. The tweet also says that the photos were captured on State Road 20 Sherman Pass, a route that winds its way through the forested Cascade Mountains in the northeastern part of the state. The spot is about 70 kilometers south of the Canada-US border in Grand Forks, BC. Honestly, I think it could be Bigfoot. It looks convincing. Number 10. Bigfoot has been around for hundreds of years. Now, some people think this is just a new new phenomenon that has been made up. But there have been Bigfoot sightings and reportings for hundreds of years. It first started in Canada as early as 1884 when the British colonists, a newspaper in Victoria, Canada, published an account of a gorilla-type creature captured in the area. Other accounts followed, according to the Canadian Encyclopedia. Sasquatch book author John Green compiled a list of 1,340 sightings through the 19th and 20th centuries. Now, the fact that this has been around for years and years makes me question people's doubts. Number 9. Face to face with the beast. Lawyer Matt Moneymaker lives in Dana Point in Southern California, and in his spare time he leads the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, which is a network of more than 3,000 people who claim to have seen the Sasquatch. In the woods of eastern Ohio, he claims he finally came eye to eye with it. He recounted this story, saying, "It was 2 o'clock in the morning and the moon was a quarter full. Suddenly, there he was, an 8-foot tall creature standing 15 feet away, growling at me. He wanted me to know that I was in the wrong place." Now, although he leads the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, no one from the organization has been able to snap a clear picture of the beast. Everyone there has their own experience with Bigfoot though. Number 8. Whitehall Trail. In 1976, multiple witnesses, including local police and a New York State trooper, said they saw a man-like beast standing over 7 to 8 feet tall and covered with hair. A blurry photo was taken from a Whitehall Trail cam in 2010, and it is among hundreds of reported Bigfoot sightings across the state. Whitehall has its own Bigfoot event, the Sasquatch Calling Festival, with a competition for the best Bigfoot calls to attract the elusive animal. Bigfoot has reportedly been sighted in many other places, including Washington State in 2020, which kept the hope alive for the enthusiasts across the US. A Mayville, New York resident, Peter Weimer, told WGRZ that he's heard from 45 eyewitnesses who claim to have seen the Sasquatch in the area around Chautauqua Lake, located 60 miles south of Buffalo. There are 100 or more witnesses in Chautauqua County that aren't talking to me, Peter told the TV station. Now, according to WGRZ, the county is packed with dense forests and deep gorges where a large animal could live but rarely be seen, like the black bear. Peter, who sponsors the annual Chautauqua Lake Bigfoot Expo event for believers and fans, says footprints seen in nearby Asheville, New York are further evidence that Sasquatch is out there. Number 7. Vocalizations. Alleged vocalizations such as howls, screams, moans, grunts, whistles, and even a form of supposed language have been reported and allegedly recorded from Bigfoot. Some of these alleged vocalization recordings have been analyzed by individuals such as retired US Navy cryptologic linguistic Scott Nelson. He analyzed audio recordings from the early 1970s said to be recorded in the Sierra Nevada mountains, dubbed the Sierra Sounds. When speaking about his findings, he said, "It's definitely a language, it's definitely not in human origin, and it could not have been faked." So yeah, they have their own language we choose to ignore. Number 6. Footprints. Investigator Jimmy Chilcutt of the Conroe Police Department in Texas, who specializes in finger and footprints, has analyzed more than 150 casts of Bigfoot prints that Meldrum, the Idaho State professor, keeps in a laboratory. Jim says one footprint found in 1987 in Walla Walla in Washington State has convinced him that Bigfoot is real. He said, "The ridge flow pattern and the texture was completely different from anything I've seen. It certainly wasn't human and of no known primate that I've examined. The print ridges flowed lengthwise along the foot, unlike human prints which flow across. The texture of the ridges was about twice the thickness of a human, which indicated that this animal has a real thick skin." Now, number 5. Bigfoot-like creature found. Showman Frank Hansen exhibited the Iceman, a Bigfoot-like creature encased in ice at the International Livestock Exposition in Chicago. This relic of the Ice Age was found in the waters off Siberia. In December 1968, Bernard Hillevmans of Royal Institute of Natural Sciences of Belgium examined the creature in a trailer in Minnesota. They said, "We consider this to be a genuine and unique example of the most priceless specimen." In a scientific journal, Bernard declared that he discovered a new species of man. In April 1969, the Smithsonian appealed appealed to the FBI director J. Edgar Hoover for help. Hoover declined, citing the absence of a violation of a federal law within our investigation jurisdiction. It's reported that the US Customs would look into it, the body. After all, it was supposedly imported. Meanwhile, Frank put a model of the specimen on display. Number 4. Bigfoot video. The most famous Bigfoot video is a short film taken in 1967 by Roger Patterson and Bob Gilman, known as the Patterson film. Shot in Bluff Creek, the video shows what appears to be a large and hairy bipedal ape, or Bigfoot, striding through a clearing. The video's authenticity is still debated, with some thinking it was likely a hoax, with the ape-like figure just a human wearing a costume. Despite this, it is seen as one of the most compelling photographic evidence of Bigfoot. It appears to document a female Bigfoot striding along a riverbank in Northern California, and it certainly wasn't human. Number 3. Suing the government over Bigfoot. Todd Standing claims his first close encounter with Bigfoot was in 2005, and that it dramatically changed his life. The filmmaker and wilderness guide from Edmonton says he saw a 9-foot-tall bipedal creature with a very human-like face high up in the Rocky Mountains of British Columbia. He says he saw it stand up and squat down. His video of the sighting, posted on YouTube, has more than 300,000 views, and he is suing the provincial government of BC in an effort to prove the existence of Bigfoot in court. He says that provincial wildlife officials are turning a blind eye to his findings. His lawsuit calls for a judge to declare that Sasquatch exists and for a wildlife official to accompany him on a 3-month hunt for one of the creatures. He said, "I've seen Sasquatch so many times, I mean over 50 times. I filmed them 8 different times." He claims fish and wildlife officials are deliberately ignoring his findings, which do not include any actual specimens, living or dead. They won't look into the evidence, so that's why he must go to court to prove it. Number 2. A Bigfoot study. A Bigfoot study called the Sasquatch Genome Project was led by genetic scientists. It was a 5-year study and took almost $500,000 to fund. The group followed a mother and daughter Bigfoot in Kentucky, and they claim there's thousands of them in the USA. The group captured videos and photos as evidence, but they also acquired DNA. The DNA has given them a theory that this creature is a hybrid of human. The DNA was sent to UT Southwestern, New York University, and North Louisiana Crime Lab. The results came back as human, but others did not. The scientists say whether you want to accept it or not, they have found proof that Sasquatch is a human relative that arose approximately 15,000 years ago as a hybrid cross of a modern Homo sapiens with an unknown primate species. The group called for this to be recognized officially, saying the government at all levels must recognize them as indigenous people and immediately protect their human and constitutional rights against those who would see in their physical and cultural differences a license to hunt, trap, or kill them. And number 1. The FBI got involved. An Oregon man intent on proving the existence of a mythical creature known as Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the Abominable Snowman, and Yeti in 1976 managed to get the FBI to test hair and tissue samples that he believed might help his case, according to newly released records. The FBI has analyzed hair in connection with the search for Sasquatch, aka Bigfoot. An internal FBI memo noted in February 1977 said, "The man who spurred the analysis, 93-year-old Peter Brine, told CNBC that he hasn't given up hope proving that Bigfoot is real, if exceedingly rare creature." FBI agent wrote back to Peter saying, "We will examine the hairs and tissue mentioned in your letter." It was the first time that the FBI apparently tested a sample of hair to see if it was Bigfoot, according to the records, which contained photocopied images of the hairs. The FBI said the examination of the hair concluded a study of morphological characteristics such as root structure, medullary structure, and cuticle thickness in addition to scale casts. Also, the hairs were compared directly with hairs of known origin under a comparison microscope. At the end of all that, it was concluded as a result of these examinations that the hairs are of deer family origin. The hair sample you submitted is being returned as enclosed in this letter, it said. Was it really deer hair, or were they covering up the fact that it actually was Bigfoot? The fact that they even tested the hair is insane.